Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I rise today to speak on a matter that should be a cornerstone of any government's priorities, the safety and well-being of our children. And yet, the Allan Labor government has shown time and again that when it comes to protecting our youngest and most vulnerable, it is slow to act, chaotic in its response, and fundamentally lacking in a child-centred approach. The suite of bills before us today includes the Early Childhood Legislation Amendment Child Safety Bill 2025, the Social Services Regulation Amendment Child Safety Complaints and Worker Regulation Bill 2025, and the Victorian Early Childhood Regulatory Authority Bill 2025. Now, we only received these two of these bills a couple of hours ago. The government issued a press release before they even tabled the bills. Just sounds so insincere. These bills are necessary and they're overdue, and they are a direct response to a crisis that the government was repeatedly warned about and that could have been prevented. Those 2,000 babies and their families could have avoided the trauma of the abuse and of having to be sexually transmitted infection tested. Absolutely disgraceful. On this side of the chamber, we support these bills. We have called for stronger oversight. We have called for tougher penalties. And we've called for the creation of the independent regulator, all way before the latest crisis struck. But we do not support the way this government has handled this process, with delay, with disregard for proper scrutiny, and with a disturbing lack of urgency. These facts are quite confronting. Earlier this year, a childcare worker who had worked across 20 centres in Melbourne was charged with over 70 sickening offences, including sexual assault and the production of child abuse material. There is also the case of Ronald Marks, arrested in 2021 for processing nearly 1,000 child abuse images, and yet he retained his active working with children check for 4 years. 4 years after his arrest. During that time, he was allowed to walk into childcare centres and walk into kindergartens. That's not just a bureaucratic error. That is a catastrophic failure of the very system designed to protect our children. It is beyond my belief that the Working with Children check was not connected to the police system. That failure meant these individuals were able to move freely between centres even after being arrested. Rather than act on strong recommendations already presented to the government commissioned a rapid review, a review of a review, a review that unsurprisingly confirmed what many in the sector, including us on this side of the chamber, had been warning of for years, that the Victorian early childhood education and care system is marked by fragmented oversight, weak regulation and uncoordinated workforce tracking. The review on the review made 22 recommendations, and yet, despite the urgency of the findings, the government has dragged its feet. These bills were meant to be tabled by October. That was the government's own commitment to its response to the rapid review, but instead they were only passed through the Cabinet yesterday and available at 12:20. It's now just after 3:30, and we are looking at these in the Parliament today with barely 2 or 3 hours' notice. Debated concurrently, giving the opposition and the stakeholders who need to have the time to understand what's in the bills time to consult. Hundreds of pages to scrutinise and to ensure that these reforms are strong and effective. It's not possible to do that level of scrutiny. And already we're hearing from the disability sector who are clearly looking through this and showing disappointment. But the Shadow Minister for Disability, my colleague, will elaborate further on that. But it just shows how ill prepared this government is and how they have not succeeded in protecting our children. It's just disgraceful. This is not how you govern when children's safety is at stake. The Premier, she's always ready to put on a hard hat and pose for cameras, but when it comes to hard work of building a system to protect our children, she clearly hasn't prioritised delivering on her promise and having this bill delivered in a timely manner. This government has consistently put politics and publicity ahead of policy and protection. The Early Childhood Legislation Amendment Child Safety Bill seeks to strengthen the regulatory environment around the childcare sector. It aims to provide better oversight, stronger penalties and improved protections for children. And these are very welcome changes, but they're reactive, not proactive. And they're the result of the public outcry and the media scrutiny, not of a government that was listening to the sector or implementing the Ombudsman recommendations or putting children first. The Social Services Regulation Amendment Bill is similarly important. It aims to strengthen the Working with Children check system by removing the silos and giving social service regulators more power, the regulator more power. It allows for better information sharing, something that should have been in place long ago and is a no-brainer to many of us. But again, the timing is deeply concerning, and the government has been coy about what these changes mean for the Commission for Children and Young People, an oversight body that is already under pressure and currently led by an acting commissioner. The Allan Labor government's failure to appoint a new commissioner to the Commissioner for Children and Young People during this time of crisis is a dereliction of duty. It is deeply troubling to me that the government has left this critical leadership role vacant, while Victorians' most vulnerable children continue to suffer under a very broken system. The CCYP has repeatedly exposed horrific failures: children dying under the state's care, rampant sexual exploitation in out-of-home residential care, and ignoring recommendations that could save lives. Yet instead of acting decisively, Labor have chosen inaction. This is a pivotal moment for reform. Accountability and safeguarding children's futures should be paramount. Leaving the Commissioner for Children and Young People without a commissioner is a signal that this government is unwilling to confront its own failures. Vulnerable children deserve leadership, not silence. This raises serious questions about independence and resourcing and the government's commitment to transparency. Perhaps the most significant of the three bills we debate today is the Victorian Early Childhood Regulatory Authority Bill. This bill implements Recommendation 9 of the Rapid Review, the creation of an independent early childhood education and care regulator, separate from the Education Department. Now, this is critical reform because for too long the department has been both the operator and the regulator, a clear conflict of interest that has been undermining the trust and accountability. The government has announced $45 million investment in these reforms, including 100 new staff and 60 new compliance officers. Now, that's got to be a significant commitment that really does indicate just how under-resourced the system was, and an admission of failure of the minister who stood by the regulator despite the fact that they were clearly failing, and now they're recognising that by putting on 60 compliance officers. It's a tacit admission that the previous regulatory framework was not fit for purpose and that this failure directly contributed to the abuse of children in early education settings. While we welcome the establishment of an independent regulator, we remain concerned that this government is already missing its own deadlines, two of the bills not being released until today, the process rushed, and the sector and educators and providers and families that have been left scrambling to understand what these changes mean. No time to look at them. This is not good enough. The safety of children should never be an afterthought, it should never be delayed, and it should never be compromised by political convenience or bureaucratic inertia. What we needed and what we still need is a government that puts children at the centre of its decision-making and children's safety. A government that listens to the sector, a government that acts swiftly and transparently when failures are exposed and recommendations made. A government that understands that child safety is not just a policy issue, it's a moral imperative. Instead, we have a government that has failed to meet its own deadlines, a government that has prioritised spin over substance. Only the Liberal Nationals are committed to delivering a fresh start for Victorian families that they deserve, and we will continue to fight for a system that is child-centred, transparent and accountable. We will continue to hold this government to account for its failures, and we will continue to advocate for the reforms that our children and our community so desperately need, because nothing is more important than keeping our children safe, and nothing is more damning than a government that has failed to do that for our children.